We know the role of President of the United States is one of the highest honors a person can receive. We know that the person sitting in the presidential chair wields power like no other man in the world. But what happens after the POTUS has served the term? Where do they go? Do they retire? Do they have a special home they go to? Well, the answers to all these questions will be answered today in Where Do Ex-Presidents Live? So let's dive right into it, folks. What are the perks while in office? In just a few minutes, we will see where the former US presidents live. But first, we wanted to tell you a little bit about the office life. Well, as the perks that come after they leave office. So first things first, how much does the US president earn? A quick Google search and we find out that the presidential salary in the USA is equal to $400,000. Now that's not all. Aside from that humongous sum of money, the president is also given a $100,000 travel account for all those business meetings. Then he has $19,000 for entertainment and another $50,000 on top of all that for the annual expenses. And when he enters the White House, he is given a $100,000 to redecorate the presidential residence to his liking. Speaking of which, what perks does the president get to enjoy while in office? We're glad you asked. Every US president has a huge staff working for him at the White House. Anything from cooks, cleaners, housekeepers, gardeners, and of course, we can never forget the Secret Service. When talking about activities, the White House has a 51-person theater room, a bowling alley, a billiard room, and sports courts. And if he's in the mood for guests, they can stay in the $60,000 guest suite located on the premise. If by any chance the president gets bored in the White House, he can move to Camp David, the country home in Maryland. But how does he get there? Usually, the POTUS use the beasts for his daily transportation. They are a fleet of bulletproof and explosion-proof vehicles that are used to transport heads of states and the actual head of state. If the destination in mind is overseas, the president boards his Boeing 747-200B with 4,000 square feet of space, a medical operating room, private presidential quarters, and food for at least 100 people, and it costs $200,000 to operate this monstrosity. Now, what happens when the president retires? Well, remember the Secret Service? They never leave the president, even after he retires. His kids are also protected until the age of 16, and that's why the secret security budget for 2017 was $1.9 billion. And they have pretty good pensions. No matter how old or young they are, every president smash that like button if you haven't done so already. But no, in all fairness, we were telling you that he receives a pension of around $200,000 per year. There are also funds for traveling, office space, and personal staff. And all of that is paid by the American government. President George H.W. Bush, term 1989 to 1993. Now let's take a look at the president that passed away just recently. Just like any other president in the United States, he was honored with a state funeral. This is customary for any president that has served in the office of the United States of America. As the house he lived in, it was the famous Walker's Point estate, also known as the Bush Compound. From one side, the house sits on the rocky beach overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. The picturesque estate has been photographed by all of the passing tourists and even the locals. The side of the house opposite the Atlantic has a huge green lawn with a round point where the flagpole proudly displays the Star-Spangled Banner. The large estate was bought back in the 19th century by Bush's great-grandfather. A lot of tearing down, rebuilding, and repurchasing took down on that estate, and eventually George H.W. Bush wound up buying the gorgeous villa in 1977. When he became president, the same estate was one of the most popular tourist attractions in the regions. The locals say it made things a bit more difficult. They were calling it the Summer White House, and this was the place where huge heads of state and international world leaders would be joining George W. Bush for dinner. Some of the important figures were the French President Francois Mitterrand, the British Prime Minister John Major, Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, and many others. While one day the mansion housed heads of state, the other it would be one of the neighbors that came there for dinner. The Bushes were extremely welcoming and kind. They didn't back anyone away. In fact, many of the neighbors have just visited the inside of the house and said it wasn't luxurious. The inside was clean, cozy, and comfortable, just like a house should look like. President Bill Clinton, term 1993 to 2001. Bill Clinton served as the 42nd U.S. president, which was on the verge of impeachment. And during the 2016 elections, his wife, Hillary Clinton, ran for president for the Democratic Party. So a political power couple like these two would have no problem buying a good home. The house where Bill Clinton spent most of his days in retirement is the 1889 mansion in Chappaqua, New York. The house is located on 15 Old House Lane, and they bought it back in 1999 for around $1.7 million. Currently, it's estimated that the house is worth around $2.5 million. The house was built in the Dutch colonial style, and the distinctive feature is the barn-like shaped roof. The house has 1.1 acres of land, and on the premise there is a red barn, which is a classic, and of course there's a beautiful pool outside. A little known fact about the barn is that it houses the Secret Service that guards the Clintons at all times. This house is 3 stories tall with 5 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. Outside, the tall walls protect the house from any intruders, and the security cameras coupled with the Secret Service makes matters that much worse. And this is not the only residence these two own. The Whitehaven residence located in Washington, D.C. is another one of their homes. It was built in 1951 and it sits on Washington's Embassy Row. If you didn't know this already, the Georgian-style mansion has a smaller plot of land, only 0.33 acres. They bought it in the year 2000 for $2.85 million. In 2016, it was estimated that the house is worth somewhere around $5.3 million. President George W. Bush, term 2001 to 2009. After many mispronunciations, a few shoes thrown at him, and a war that crippled the economy, George W. Bush finally retired, and he and his wife bought the property back in 2001, right before his term as president started. This gorgeous, secluded, calm property was left for 8 years alone in Texas while George W. was solving the country's biggest problems. Then upon retirement, he embraced his southern roots and moved to Texas, where his 1,600-acre estate awaited him. You heard that right. We said the estate was 1,600 acres. This modern house is surrounded by the Texas forests, while a river runs across the vast lands. George W. Bush even built a pool on the premise, which he filled with fish so he could enjoy a quiet day out fishing. While he served in office, this was the Western White House, and it housed guests like the Russian President Vladimir Putin and the Saudi Arabian King Abdullah bin Abdulaziz. And of course, the 1,600 acres of land was also featured a 40-mile network of bike trails. The house is actually pretty modest, and it only has 3 bedrooms plus 2 suite guest house that was added next to it. The house also has overhangs of up to 10 feet wide in order to better deflect the sunlight. Now, when talking recreation, there's a beautiful swimming pool that's shaded by the trees. This house is pretty much a sight for sore eyes. President Barack Obama, term 2009 to 2017. While people thought that Obama would be the coming back to his hometown, Chicago, he and his daughters decided to stay in Washington. Initially, they found a beautiful 8,200 square foot home that they decided to rent out. The rustic and retro style is located in Washington's Kalorama neighborhood, and this meant that one of their neighbors would be Jeff Bezos and Ivanka Trump. Later, they decided to buy the home for $8.1 million, and TMZ was saying that the Obamas were planning to build an in-ground swimming pool. While the outside looks old and dated, the inside is sparkling new. There is black and white furniture and the walls are all white. There are wooden and marble floors, and the entire property boasts 8 bedrooms and 9.5 bathrooms, which all look amazing, mind you. The living room gets plenty of sunlight and it's equipped with a fireplace. Here you can see how the green undertones prevail. The kitchen, on the other hand, has an aisle and a marble countertop. Giant 6-burner stove, and the kitchen opens up to the dining room where a small round table is placed. The backyard has a sitting area, and we're assuming this is where they'll build the pool. Oh, we almost forgot. There is a 2-car garage, but the yard has the capacity to hold 10 cars. And on that note, we end this video. But hey, which of these presidents did you like the most? You can tell us in the comment section below. If you'd like more videos like these, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of them. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.